Welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I'm Tanika, and today we are talking Love is Blind. So, for this particular episode, because there wasn't a whole lot of drama with episode 9, we've combined episode 8 and episode 9 into one episode. So Sharon is going to be a part of all of that, so we'll get into that shortly. But there is a couple of things that I do want to discuss on the top of the episode before we get into it. And this was posted to our Facebook, but I will go through this all now. So the first thing, B90, part 2 of the tell-all. I have recorded this. It is ready to be edited and put out there to everybody, but I do want to focus on the things that are more current. We're on a new season now of OG, which again, I'm very excited to talk about because, oh boy. But I also still want to put my thoughts out there with the tell-all part 2. So, that'll probably be something that will be done after other things have been done. So with that in mind, I'm going to focus on the things that are current and eventually get the B90 thing out to you as well. So you might get that either the following day from this or a couple of days from when you're getting this. But again, I want to focus on the current things that is happening right now with reality TV. So, segueing into the next thing, the other way and the last resort. So, I did want to do the last week's episodes for those two, but I've decided that I'm going to skip a full recap for both of those last week episodes and focus on the current this week's episodes and talk about very briefly some of the things that happened in the previous episode. But keep it very brief because this is also going to help with getting ahead, trying to stay somewhat on top of things because we are going to be getting new shows very soon. So I want to try and stay on top of everything. We're getting so much content right now. So this is a way to kind of not go backwards, stay current as much as possible. This is something that could happen again in the future, but I'm hoping we won't have to. That's where we're at right now with those things, so hopefully you'll get those soon as well. Another note, Golden Bachelor, VIP, those things will be coming, but again, that might be right as the new shows are going to be airing, maybe even the day after. Just in terms of the content, but I'm hoping I get that out to you, last week's episodes to you, or Thursday's episodes to you soon. And I think that's it, the major things, with those episodes. But also, when it comes to the memes, I'm still gonna talk maybe very briefly about some of the memes, but I think going forward, I still want to share those out to everybody, but I'm gonna stick to doing them on the socials only for the most part, and only talk about really highlighted ones that I really think are funny, but I'm gonna limit those as much as possible. So those are things that you'll get prior to the shows coming out, maybe, towards the middle of the week, aiming for those. So you may actually already see them by the time this is coming out, but that's kind of the update there. And I think that's it for announcements at this point. There's some new things going on hot cross, where the hot cross is concerned, but I'm going to keep that to the 90-day episodes. So we'll talk about those things there. But other than that, I think that is it. So now we will stop all of this and jump into the Love is Blind episode right now. Today we're talking Love is Blind, and of course, I have Sharon with me.
Hello, I'm back.
So we're actually going to discuss both episode 8 and 9 because not much happened in episode 9. All the fun stuff happened in episode 8. So we'll just jump right into it. So episode 8, Love is a Battlefield. I'm not going to sing, guys, I promise. But I immediately thought, that amazing song. I love it. Anyway, so Uche, we're with Uche and he's talking to Milton. And he tells him, listen, I just need to be honest. I didn't tell you a single thing about my relationship with Lydia while we were in the pods. But on the other side of things, she was telling Aaliyah everything. Telling her the car I drove, about my dog, all the stuff about me. And I wasn't doing that with you. So I, needed to be honest. And he starts telling him how she was being dishonest. And then all of a sudden she comes and is actually like telling Milton, let's go. Like she's trying to pull him away from Uche, which I didn't fucking like. And like let them in because he literally, it's one thing if he didn't want to talk to Uche, but he did. And he's like, no, let me talk to him. Give me 5 minutes. It's like, no, Milton, now. I'm like, that's fucking disgusting. This man is allowed to have his say in who he speaks to. And you, like, literally pulling him aside because why you're trying to control him from talking to Uche, then that goes to show that everything Uche was saying is true. Everything he was saying is true. Come on now.
Yeah, I agree.
So, he's basically does say like he will come back and try to talk to Uche, but we'll see. So Uche does say, like, as once he kind of walks off, that if Milton says yes to Lydia, it will be the biggest mistake he ever makes. I don't know. I don't know.
Ouch.
Okay, so Uche does go to the rest of the group, and he's telling them that, she knew that I was going to be on the show, and that's why she herself applied to be on the show. And he says like her goal was for them to maybe either be together or sabotage any relationship that he tried to form. And he said, and she succeeded. She sabotaged my connection with Aaliyah. And so this is when shit kind of hits the fan a little bit. So Johnny is shocked by everything that she's hearing, and she's visibly shocked by what Uche is saying. And I guess she's kind of like just looking around the group, but not really necessarily focusing on one person in particular. And then Stacy all of a sudden is like, is something wrong with your face? Says it more than once. Is something wrong with your face?
Yeah.
And Johnny's like,
you can tell now people are intoxicated.
oh, for sure. It was pretty evident, especially when like, Izzy and Stacy leave.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, don't have conversations when you're drunk, people. Like, don't do it. But nonetheless, she's saying something wrong with your face. And Johnny's like, what? No, I'm just shocked by what he is saying. Like, she's like, but you're looking at me. And she's like, the fuck? She's like, I wasn't looking at you. I'm just looking. And I don't care if you're drunk, Stacy, but that's fucking rude. Because Uche's talking about his experience at this moment, and you're pretty much interrupting him to dig in with Johnny. That's bullshit. That was fucking rude of you.
And so random. And so not necessary.
Yeah, and he's like, excuse me, can I finish?
Yeah.
Like, that's just the one time that I want his attitude to come out, because he's like, excuse me, can I finish what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck? Can I finish what I'm saying at this moment? Like, why are you
I swear after that, Everything just went downhill though.
Oh, it went so downhill so fast. Like, it's ridiculous. Basically, he's kind of like saying to them, like, obviously, I was on that side of the quarters. From what I'm understanding, she's saying all of these things to Aaliyah, and Stacy kind of pipes in and says, I didn't see that happening. She's like, when you and her got in your argument about cheating situation, she cried to Lydia, and Lydia was comforting her, and she's your ex comforting this woman. No. You've missed it all, Stacy, because
Yeah.
that's not, yes, she did come in crying, but she didn't run to Lydia. Lydia ran to her from my memory.
And she wasn't comforting her.
No.
Like, she was like, oh, like, don't worry. But like the things she was saying, I'm like, girl, like, no contacts. And you're saying, F this man? Like, what?
Oh, but there was context. That's the thing.
Yeah.
We, just as a viewer, didn't realize that there was context.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing is, Stacy's not reading between the lines here. You can't turn around and say, oh, she was comforting her. We just found out, or the group didn't know this, but just found out that Lydia and Uche were hiding the secret. Aaliyah finds out she's friends with Lydia, and everything should kind of come together. I guess you have to be sober to figure that out, because as soon as I found out that these two were together and you replay the conversations in your mind between Lydia and Aaliyah, I'm like, oh shit. Like, that's no longer genuine.
Yeah.
It feels gross. And Stacy's completely missing the point. And Johnny, who knew, is reading between the lines and says, that's fucked up.
Yeah. I'll give it to Johnny. Like,
yeah, 100%.
You know, she was she from this moment to the end of the episode, or the end of the hangout, even though I don't like her,
nope.
I still had to like, I'm like, okay, you know what? She's the only one who's making sense.
Only one making sense.
Yeah.
She regained her lawyer card because she was the only one making sense. Her and Uche, honestly, were the only ones who were actually making sense.
Yeah.
No one else is making sense right now.
No.
And anyway, so then Miriam. So now if we remember Miriam was the one who may or may not be living in the Middle East, but she moved to Texas, and I don't even know. I know she's also from Ontario, I think, or from Canada somewhere. Like, my girl has no clue what's happening around her. But yes. That conversation happened with Uche, if you remember. So she starts piping in, I guess, defending Lydia because they're friends. And Uche is like, no. Stop it. Like, he's like, I don't want to hear it kind of situation here. And she's like, like, don't talk like that. Like, they all get up and start defending. And they're like, don't talk to her like that. She's allowed to have her opinion. And I'm like, okay, but everything else that he then follows with, he's right. He's like, she doesn't even know where the fuck she lives, and she wants to come and tell me something. He's like, where do you live? Middle East? Houston? Where do you live? Like, and she's like, I live in both places. That is not what you said in the pods. I'm so confused.
Yeah.
And honestly, it might sound petty, but it's like, I'm not going to take advice from a person who can't keep it like 100 in terms of where they live. I feel like that's like one of the easiest things to answer. And you're completely all over the place as to where exactly you live. And he also then goes on to say, and I agreed with him here too, and I'll explain why. He says, you're just on here to promote your business. You're not on here to find love.
Yeah.
And he is 100% correct, because I saw a TikTok that Ava actually sent me with her promoting her product. This
Mm-hmm.
is the whole reason she was on this show. Otherwise, I don't know, like, what else she's trying to do here. Sound
I
like,
mean, if
I don't
that's the
know,
case, like she kind of failed because like
100% she
you're
failed.
barely on it.
Yeah, the goal is to find love so you can try to stay on here longer
Yeah.
so that you can promote. Because listen, I don't come at people who do the damn thing and, you know, use this platform to grow something. We've
Mm-hmm.
seen it again using Any Day because a lot of them do
Yeah.
that. They
Yeah.
have like their cameos or their OnlyFans, and
Mm-hmm.
you have like a couple on there. Avery and Omar, for those who watch 90 Day Fiance,
Yeah.
she full fledged went into her Etsy
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and it worked for them to some
Yeah.
extent. I'm not sure how, like, they kind of fell off. They did the one season, that's it. Um, but she used her platform and she did that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't I have an issue with that.
Yeah.
But when you're all over the place and you clearly didn't come here with the goal of actually finding love, you probably just came here to promote it. I don't like it. It's not
Yeah.
genuine. I don't want to see it.
No, I agree. And honestly, like the same way how um when the whole conversation or the Uche and Aaliyah argument that happened and then the girls were trying to console her. Like I think I mentioned that too. The way the girls like circulated and huddled around Aaliyah and then just like started bashing and like zero contacts was throwing
Mhm.
BS in the air. Like it was
Mhm.
so annoying. And
But
then
again, I
it
feel
was
like
like a
that's something women just do, which is why
yeah, 100 no,
you have
100%.
to be so careful. And I've learned this. You have to be so careful as to what you say.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing if you can, it's like obviously I've talked to you about things that have happened
Hmm.
in my relationship, good or bad.
Yeah.
But I know like you're gonna, give the advice and hear me out.
Hmm.
But then not also judge if I, keep
Yeah.
continuing on in the
No.
relationship. And that's, you have to pick and choose who you can do those things with.
Hmm.
But those people who just jump and say, oh, he's an asshole,
Yeah.
those are not the ones that you should be talking to
No. You
because then
give
they,
sound advice, like you don't
Mhm.
just like and like it's just like you didn't really have I mean it makes sense for Lydia now, but like you didn't no one really had enough information. They just like heard like a little bit and then
Mhm.
they like went miles. Like they ran miles with that little information they got, you
Yeah.
know? And then I feel it's like the same thing they're doing in this episode where like they're all talking like on top of one another, saying like all saying different things. And then like, you know, and then it's just like, yo, like who the like so many people are talking, like one at a time. And then obviously that's when freaking what's her name? The scientist got offended. Mariah? Oh wait, what am I saying? That's an artist. Who's the one that got offended and like the Middle East and Houston one? What's her name again?
Miriam.
Miriam. I called her Mariah the scientist, but that's an artist. But I mean, same to same. Um, they're both scientists in an interesting way.
Mm.
Um, but anyways, yeah, it was just annoying. Um, and I don't know. I found that whole scene was just brutal to watch because first for some reason too, like I just didn't like even though like Uche was like right and it was like actually like funny, he was calling everyone out. It was also like I didn't like that. Like I felt maybe I just felt it was like way too confrontational than it should have been, and like too you could tell like Uche was like really riding on emotions. Like his emotions were taking over at
Mhm.
that point.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't like it. I was like, ooh, like you know, you're kind of being mean. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't
it's to
know.
be expected from Uche, honestly. And like that's why they like when he walks off, they say,
Hmm.
oh, he's a narcissist. He's
Yeah.
arrogant. So they've clocked him. So 100%, all of those things are correct. And he didn't have to go in on Miriam like that. Like, it wasn't necessary. It was funny, but it wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
But to kind of end off that little section, Johnny does say, I believe Lydia knew. I believe
Hmm.
she knew. And she is stalking him.
Yeah.
I mean, yes,
And
Johnny.
yeah. And like for a while, I couldn't really understand what her like reasoning was to go on the show. Like, was she entirely writing and hoping that they could like restart their love? But then now I could see her just being so upset at the way things went down that she'd want to like ruin his chances.
Mm-hmm.
And then she'd be like, but if I find it, I find it.
Mm-hmm. I think her main goal was to ruin Ujay's chances. I don't think her main goal was to find anybody. She did. But now I
Mm-hmm.
also not 100% sure if I don't know if the relationship with Milton is genuine. I'm not sure. I do worry about that
I do
because
think they're like completely like I'm seeing the opposites, and the opposites are actually really loud. Like
mhm,
it's not just something you could like work together through, or something that like you could talk about later, or something that's not going to impact your future. Like their opposites are going to impact their future.
yeah, and they are total opposites because yes, Milton is very analytical in his thinking, and approaches things
Yeah.
very differently. And
Hmm.
I know that the main bone of contention that we're seeing between them later on is the reactions to things. She's more emotional in her reactions. He's more, calm and analytical in his. And he wants her to be more like that. Which, number one, take it or leave it. You can't expect her to change for you because you're
Hmm.
uncomfortable in certain situations. This is who she is. You've picked
Yeah.
her. If you don't want to
Hmm.
be, if you don't want that, then don't be with her.
Yeah.
But on the
And
other
no one's
hand,
going to change within like 4 weeks. Like
mm-mm,
that what he's asking of her is going to take a really long time.
exactly. And he brings up the fact of, I want my children to understand that things are not going to be great. So we're kind of going ahead here, but he kind of says that. And he kind of wants her to be on the same page with that. But it's like, but you are two different people.
Hmm.
And your children are going to be smart enough as time goes on to pick and choose the parts of their parents that they want to have or not have. So you have to let your children kind of come to those conclusions on their own.
Yeah.
And expecting her to change because of it is not realistic.
No. And honestly, I've seen that type of parent dynamic before,
Mm-hmm.
and it causes a lot of unnecessary rifts in the
Mm-hmm.
family as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not good in the long run.
No, and that's the thing is if and that's as again going ahead here, but when I think it was a sister kind of asked about like whether or not you guys were having those conversations on the
Hmm.
parenting styles and stuff like that. They
Hmm.
hadn't. What are
Yeah.
you guys talking about then? Because that's important. Those are important things to talk about before you get married, have children.
Yeah.
That's important. And you haven't
Yeah.
had those conversations. And it's not until after she's brought that up that you
Hmm.
start having those conversations. So
Yeah.
here again is your age showing. Why does your sister have to tell you this? If
Hmm.
you are going to be a big man and get married to somebody, you
Yeah.
should know you should have these conversations without being told.
Yeah. But also, like, why hasn't Lydia, like, like you're acting like you're healed, you're matured,
Maybe,
and all that stuff.
maybe Lydia, and I do wonder this. Like she
Hmm.
does talk this big game if she wants to marry him. She's gonna say yes. But what if
Hmm.
Lydia actually isn't going to say yes and doesn't have to have these conversations with him? Maybe that's a tinfoil hat theory on my part, but I just wonder, like, maybe she's like not having these conversations with him because she has no intentions of staying with him to have those conversations. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? I'm just,
Yeah.
throwing it out there. But yeah, so we'll come back to to this now, to the current stuff. Anyway, so yeah, that's done. Uche's walked away. So now he's talking with Milton, and they're trying to continue that conversation. And he talks about, the the screenshots and the from the Instagram and the stalking of the home and all of that. And he says, I'm not trying to ruin your relationship with her. I'm just trying to have you be informed on things, which, I mean, could ruin the relationships there. But anyway, and he tells Milton, which he had said before the pods had opened, about, I think I'm going to find somebody here that I already know, right? He said that conversation happened before the pods even opened. So she already had a preconceived notion that somebody, me, was here before. So how would she have had that thought in her mind when she hadn't talked to me yet? So he does tell him that. And Milton says, everyone has their perception and you're both grown. Then Milton says that, something about this XYZ perception. So, like, Lydia has an X perception and Milton has a Y perception and he has a Z perception. I was like, the fuck you say? I'm so confused. But anyway, he's basically just in a nutshell trying to say that everyone has their own perception. Doesn't mean one perception is wrong or correct or whatever. It's just you have your own perception. Very analytical way of thinking on his part, and it's like, ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't. Again, I did say that I'm not sure how Milton was going to handle this conversation with Uche. I do think, generally speaking, he handled it okay.
Mm-hmm.
But also at the same time, I feel like he didn't. I don't know. It's this weird thing of,
yeah,
I don't know where you stand, I guess is where I'm trying to get at. Like, not to say that you need to tell Uche where you stand.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that. But you could at least tell the viewers or Lydia where you stand. And I don't feel like he did at any point, not with us as the viewer, not with Lydia. There was never a moment where I felt, so where do you stand on everything that you're hearing? We don't find out really where he stands until the next episode, when he is kind of telling Lydia, you're too fucking emotional. That's the only glimpse into it that we get.
The only glimpse we do get is just him saying like how she handled it, but not necessarily the context of the conversation. And I honestly, I think he's the type of guy who gets a problem in front of him and he deals with it, and once it's dealt with, it's like done. It's packed away. And I think this, to him, he's kind of dealt with it earlier on. So he's kind of just like, I'm gonna hear you out and I'm gonna, like, you could say what you want to say, but like, I've already come to terms with the fact that you guys have a history. It wasn't a good history, but that's you two. And I'm so far away from this particular storyline that the two of you guys are still want to be in.
Right.
That's where his like AB XYZ thing comes in. But I do think technically, Milton, like, you're still part of it, whether or not you want to be or not. Like, it's just a matter of, as Uche says, like, yes, it's the past, but how much of this past is going to dictate the future?
And that was perfect, because I think Milton isn't quite understanding that this could happen to him. He thinks that it wouldn't. But again, and I tend to quote Dr. Phil on this podcast sometimes, and I know he's controversial, but I don't care, because some of the things he says is correct. Your relevant past behavior reflects on your future behavior, whatever it is. Similar to that. So this is relevant past behavior that we're discussing between Uche and Lydia. So why does he think that this couldn't happen to him?
Mm-hmm.
I would be running.
Yeah. It's like, those people who are like, oh, I'm different. He's not going to cheat on me. And it's like, once a cheater, always a cheater.
Right. I mean, I do think, you can change and you can grow up.
Yeah.
But something like this, especially because he hasn't even talked to her about whether or not is any of this correct. Any of this,
Mm-hmm.
from what we've seen anyways. You never seen him have a conversation with her.
Yeah.
Why haven't you had a conversation with her
Mm-hmm.
to at least get a feel of whether or not any of this that he's saying is right? He
Yeah.
hasn't had that. And I don't know why, because I would be. I need to be sure that I'm going to be safe with you. And from what Uche is saying to us, you might not be.
Yeah.
So I don't understand.
I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
he realizes, I don't think Milton realizes there's like a really long checklist of things that you may not think is relevant, but is relevant to kind of discuss or be aware of before a marriage because it's going to impact the marriage. And people get really comfortable when they're under that like marriage contract, right? And
Exactly.
and I hope Milton realizes like there's going to be a shift, and are you prepared for what that shift brings?
I don't know if he is.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, again, going ahead here a little bit, when we meet his family and
Mm-hmm.
they ask him, I think again his sister asked, or maybe it was his mom, asked him, are you ready for this? And he says, I think I am. That's not an answer.
Yeah.
Telling me that you think you are, or you don't know whatever term he used, it was just like, what? That's not it. I feel, again, very similar to, again, I know you don't watch 90 Day, but maybe the listeners do. So when we see like Brandon and Mary, two children, they're only a year younger than Milton, two children, mind you, trauma with the two of them, but there's two children trying to play house with each other. And I feel the same way about Milton. I feel like this is somebody who thinks he's ready, but he's not. And I've been saying that. I don't feel like this man is by any means ready. Now, who am I to talk? Because I also got married at 24, almost 25 years old. But if I would go back, I would and say, don't fucking do it because you're really not ready yet.
Yeah.
I would have said to myself, not to say that I wasn't in love with my ex. I was, but we were not ready. So, yeah, and he was the same age as Milton when we got married. That man was not ready to be a husband. I stand by that. And I don't think Milton is ready to be a husband either.
Mm-hmm.
You need the age because your brain doesn't even stop developing until you're 25. Your brain is still developing.
Yeah.
You're not done yet.
I could understand his need to like start that next milestone.
But what's the rush? You're 24.
I think it's because maybe it's like just his like work dynamic. It's like he's never gonna really necessarily have the time to like look and search
Maybe.
and like
Maybe.
go on these like on and off dates and like not know people's intentions. Like it's like this experiment, like well, you would hope, and the purpose is that everyone there wants to get married. Um, and then so then that little, are you sure that they even want this? Is like kind of ish off the table, and then you just focus on like your connection and your growth. But clearly, like that that part of the experiment has changed and shifted throughout these seasons. But yeah, I could see his intentions and I could see maybe why is because like his work is just too demanding and he doesn't really have the time to date, and then he doesn't want to date for fun. He really wants to be committed. But homie, this is just not it.
But I also
You
feel
didn't
like
find it.
he's in the beginning stages of his job.
Mm-hmm.
Every job has its beginning stages where
Yeah. Yeah.
or you're your dream job. You have these stages that you need to go through. And you're through a stage right now, but that doesn't mean that it's going to continue that way.
Yeah.
Eventually, you maybe don't have to be on call for certain jobs. Maybe you'll be kind of like a, seniority type situation.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll get to that point when you're, 3-4 years down the road, then would allow you time to date and find somebody. Why now? I feel like it goes even deeper than the ease of things with his
Maybe
job.
he just wants to be like taken care of.
Yeah, that's a good point. Oh my God, you're onto something. Because remember, his mother says later on that I told him that you're too tall to lean on me. That you need to, you're a big boy now, you're a man. You kind of have to figure things out for yourself and take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's trying to find someone to replace his mom. And
Yeah.
he's found Lydia, who is also older than him. Oh my God, that's it. Then Chris and Izzy, they're talking. And Izzy says to him, listen, I never told her she was a piece of shit. Which is true.
Yeah.
He never said that.
Yeah.
But then he says that's a red flag. No, it's not. It's not a red flag. It's just how she felt. Jeez. Anyway. Izzy tells Chris that Johnny told him that she loved him about 4 times in the pod, but he himself never said it back to her. Did she say that?
I honestly, as you saying that, I don't recall. But I'm like,
I don't recall her saying it. And she even said they never told him that.
Yeah.
So I'm
But
actually
then
wondering.
he said, roll the clips, honey. So he has to be confident.
Or not.
Nah. Because the clips will be rolled.
Oh, they will be rolled. That's true. They will be rolled.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even if she said it, what difference does it make, really? She's not with you.
Yeah.
You're with Stacy. She's with Chris. Like, I'm just trying to understand what his motive is.
I think it's like, I think it's just like a ego thing where he just wants to make sure that he's made the right decision. And so any opportunity he gets to kind of rationalize not choosing Johnny, he does it and be like, and and that's why I dodged a bullet.
Exactly.
It's definitely coming across like that.
Yeah. And then Stacy comes and sits down. Why?
Yeah.
This was kind of like she does say, like, oh, I didn't know I was walking into something. Well, then leave.
Yeah. And she did it.
And she didn't. And then Johnny comes. And then this is when the shit hits the fan in this conversation. Okay, so Stacy tells Johnny that she was full of shit. Oof. And then Johnny Stacy, I think, tells Johnny that she was full of shit. So then Johnny tells Stacy that she was being deceitful. Wow, how? I don't. When she said that, I'm like, how was she being deceitful? I didn't quite understand that.
Yeah.
Because that she didn't say that she was talking with Izzy. I don't think she needed to tell you that. She didn't need to tell you that. I think, if anything, it was better that she didn't tell you that.
Yeah.
I think they all should do that.
Yeah.
So
literally, like, it's totally fine to like freaking create your boundaries, understanding your emotional capabilities. And Stacy said, like, it's such an emotional roller coaster in those pods. Like, I'm not going to put myself
add to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, duh.
And it makes sense. 100% makes sense.
Yeah.
And she also then continues on to tell Johnny that she's a shitty person. Because like she cried for her when she knew that she was going to be broken up with, but then Johnny was talking shit. Okay, but Johnny was obviously upset because she was all in with Izzy, and he clearly wasn't all in with her.
Yeah,
and you could tell that just based on his actions and how his body was responding. Instead of just having her end things with Chris, she could have just upright said, you know what? I don't know if I'm all in on you yet. So don't close your options off yet. Let's wait a second.
Yeah, but I don't
He
think she
never
knew
did
that
that.
she was. I don't think she knew that she was gonna close it off like the next
No,
day.
no, she did. He did because she told him, I'm going to end it with my second. And then she confirmed that she did.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure she told him, I'm going to
mm.
end it. She never said who it was, but she said that I'm going to end it with my second.
Oh, I
Because
thought.
he knew who her
Mhm.
second was.
Mhm.
Because when she says to him, I ended it, he says, yeah, no, I heard.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, he knew.
Mhm.
He just decided then, because then he ends up ending it with her
Mhm.
like this the next day.
Yeah, that's
So
actually shitty.
you clearly knew you didn't want it to be with her.
Mhm.
So why can't you just tell her that? If anything, the person who was deceitful in all this was Izzy.
Yeah.
And he's the shitty person,
Mhm.
honestly, if you want to go from that perspective.
Yeah.
I, so anyway, okay, so then we kind of start mincing words on whether Izzy broke up with Johnny. Okay, here we go. So Izzy was like, I didn't break up with her. We weren't together. So it's not a breakup. Yes, it
Yeah.
is. It was a breakup. You broke
That
it
was
off.
just like way too particular. Like you know what Johnny was trying to say. Like,
Exactly. And I loved that Stacy later on says it was a breakup.
yeah.
Because he puts his foot in his mouth and says she was just a pod chick. And Stacy's
Mhm.
like, but so was I.
Yeah.
I was also a pod chick.
Mhm.
So I don't understand the reasoning for that.
Yeah.
So I loved that she told him that's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous.
Mhm.
And of all the seasons we've watched, never once until now have we had someone say it wasn't a breakup because we weren't together.
Yeah.
That kind of goes to show that you weren't taking any of this seriously
Mhm.
because it was a breakup. You broke it off if you want to use that terminology, but you broke something off. You created a connection with somebody and you broke it off.
Mhm.
I hated that. But obviously Johnny's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. She was
Um,
like, she was already going through a lot. And then he's like, it's not a breakup. And she's like, you know what? Like, I'm sorry, I can't find the right words. Like, what would you call it then? Like,
exactly. Um, but then, you know, they part ways at this point, and I think it was Stacy who says like she's sketchy. Um, and yeah, anyway, she's sketchy and all that shit. And one of them actually defends her and says, you know, she is my friend and I don't think she's sketchy. And she says she's a bitch. Okay. You don't have to like her. And Johnny doesn't have to like you.
mhm.
But if we're gonna base the fact that she is sketchy or she's full of shit or any of those things on a reaction to her heart being broken by Izzy, then we all need to reevaluate ourselves. It's kind of stupid.
Yeah, but I also agree with the idea of like, you know, okay, yeah, you're heartbroken, but that doesn't mean now, like, now that you're heartbroken, go bash like Stacy being chosen, being like, oh, that's gonna be, like she's not a good fit for you, or like that's not gonna work. Like, it's
I
like,
I also think she's right though, based on everything that we're seeing.
that they're
Everything
not
that
gonna
Johnny
work.
has, 100% they're not going to work. They're not the same person. They're not the same people in the sense of um, she, at the end of the day, is kind of has these high expectations of her person because she herself has lived a life of luxury up until this point, and he hasn't.
Yeah.
And she expects that of him.
Hmm.
And I don't think that's realistic with the person she's chosen.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to work. And then everything else that Johnny has said about the credit,
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah.
come to
That's it,
fruition.
100%. But it's
So
just like I just think like leave Stacy out of it. Like if you're gonna bash someone, like bash Izzy.
and that's fair. That's 100% fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think unfortunately, a lot of women tend to
Yeah.
bash the woman instead of the man.
Yeah, the other
That's
woman.
easier.
Yeah.
The only time you should be bashing the other woman is if she readily knew. And in this case is not the case because this is a whole different situation. But if the woman readily knew that you were the woman and she still continued with your man, then that's when you can bash her. Otherwise, you can't bash her. So anyway, so Milton and Lydia, they're talking, and she says that um, they have friends in common. Okay, Lydia, if you have friends in common, then why are these women going to him and saying, this girl is like looking at my stories?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make any sense.
No.
So again, try again.
Yeah.
Try again. Um, and then Milton says, who gives a shit about any of this? But now we're just shoving things under the rug, and that's not going to work out either. But okay, if that works for you. Um, so they actually do have somewhere to go. Who knew? Because he actually says we have to be somewhere in like 10 minutes. So, or we have like a dinner to go to or whatever. So let's go. So I'm like, oh, so it's true?
Yeah.
I feel like you stayed here a lot longer than 10 minutes. But anyway. So now we're with Izzy and Stacy, and they're back in the apartment. So we've already talked a little bit about this, but they're still talking shit about Johnny. And he actually says, like, I don't think Chris should be with her. That is not up to you. So let it go. And Stacy actually says, but why do you care
Yeah.
who he's with? Even if it's Johnny, like, why do you care? And she's right. She's like, is it about Johnny? Or is it like, what is it about? And he's like, it's not about her. I don't believe him. But he's like, it's not about her. And he's like, he's my friend. I was looking out for him. And she's like, but why? He's made it clear that he wants to be with her. So why are you putting your energy into this? It's not up to you. Yeah. And I 100% agree with her. You're putting your energy into the wrong thing. Who gives a shit if Chris is with Johnny?
Yeah.
Who cares?
It's like you're doing too much now.
Yeah. If there's something to be discovered, Chris will discover it. Otherwise, leave it alone.
Especially because they're not getting married in 4 weeks. Like, they're just dating. Yeah.
They're dating. So who cares?
Yeah.
So yeah, I've mentioned before, he was drunk. Like, you could visibly see he's gone. Yeah. And she says that she basically wants to feel like she wants him to feel like she could leave him at any time. I don't like that.
Yeah, I'm like, that's toxic, sis.
Yeah.
That's not normal.
Yeah. No, I didn't like that at all.
Because she was saying, like, oh, I don't want to hear that, like, you're so appreciative of me when, you see other people, like, other things, like, hit the fence, like, I want that to be something you feel like every day or as you walk through the door. And I'm like, I understand the context of like being appreciated at all times or like at different times, like there are different scenarios, not just like one particular scenario. But the idea of like, I want you to be afraid to lose me every time is a bit excessive.
Yeah, 100% excessive. I didn't agree with any of that. And then it kind of just, with the whole comment about the pod chick situation, kind of backfires even further. And she starts kind of saying, like, you don't do things for me. You said you would do things for me. You don't cook. You don't do all this stuff. He's like, okay, but you're home more than I am. And he says, like, I wake up before you. I come home after you. When I am home, though, I try to do things, like cleaning or whatever. And I think, like, maybe the biggest thing that she wants is she wants him to cook for her, from what I'm gathering here. So when you're home, you can also cook for her on top of the cleaning. I'm just saying, multitasking.
Yeah.
But it just becomes this argument about that. And he kind of walks off and he's like crying, but she's in the kitchen still. And she's like, I'm fine with myself. And I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. I don't think I need to change. And I'm like,
Yeah.
mm, there's always room for growth,
Mm-hmm.
even if you think you don't need to change.
Yeah.
And she just go into the bathroom. I think he was like in the closet or something in the bathroom. And she goes in there. She's like, why are you crying? And he kind of says, like, I don't feel like I'm good enough. And he's kind of like saying those things. Like, clearly some of the traumas of his life is coming out right now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I just want to be left alone. So she does eventually leave him alone. And we don't see much of more after that. But again, don't have conversations when you're drunk
Mm-hmm.
because it's not gonna go very far. But
Yeah.
so Lydia and Milton, they're talking about what happened, and he just say, perception. He brings the whole perception thing back up again and says, like, don't give him the time of day and stop reacting to him. And how she leads with her emotions. You're kind of seeing him bringing this up. And she says, I came to this experience because I wanted to find my husband, and I did. I don't know if that's why you came to this experience, but
Yeah.
whatever. Whatever you say. Izzy and Stacy were now the next day and they're talking. And she says that she feels unappreciated. And, or no, he feels like he is unappreciated. And
Mm-hmm.
she just wants to, the things that she does for him, she just wants it reciprocated. That's her biggest thing here. And he feels like what he is doing is going unrecognized. And she says that she is appreciative of what he does. Um, then they make up. That's it. That's basically the gist of it. Then he got her a gift and he got her a coupon for him to cook her dinner. And he also, which I thought was actually kind of sweet and got me a little bit emotional, but he buys her a plunger. But on the plunger, it had a little note that kind of said, you might encounter some shit or something. And here's a plunger to release the shit. I thought it was cute. But anyway, that's kind of
I mean,
that.
I get where it's coming from,
Mm, yeah,
but
no. But no
yeah.
to the plunger.
I'm like, okay, I mean, you know what? I thought that plunger was given on their wedding day, like, the gifts they give before they like say I do.
Mm,
I thought that's when he gave it. I was like, oh, like that's absurd. But
no,
giving it randomly, like, yeah, it's like it's a small token of like just like inside
it's
joke and
cute.
understanding, and yeah, it's
Yeah,
cute. So I don't hate it.
yeah. So then Izzy's mom, I think her name's Raina, right? Raina, yeah. She's here and she's meeting Stacy, and she just kind of just stated, I'm going to run through this very quick, and just kind of says, like, I just want to be sure that you're the right person for him, blah, blah, blah. And all goes well. She seems
Hmm.
to really like Stacy. The one thing though, and again, it's just because I brought it very differently. When you're meeting someone's parent, please wear something that covers you completely. I didn't like what she was wearing. I wish she kept that wrap on, but that's just me. Because again, I'm raised very differently. If I if my brother were to come with a girl who dressed like that, my mom would be like, "Get the fuck out of my house!" Like that's just how we're raised. Please dress yourself. Chloe, don't wear a fucking crop top. But anyways, nonetheless, it went well. So anyway, so Lydia is meeting Melton's family. Again, we're gonna go through this pretty quickly because we kind of already talked about some of this. It doesn't seem to have gone very well, in my opinion, just because the sister throws words out like fake and scripted and stuff like that. So she doesn't think that Lydia is being authentic, I guess. And she also doesn't feel like Milton is truly ready to be married and is actually shocked by the fact that this is even happening. Because she
Yeah.
says, never once have you actually said you wanted to be married now. So
Hmm.
where is this coming from?
Hmm.
Um, But other than that, like, again, it just didn't seem to go very well. I think they like Lydia as a person, but I'm not sure if they like them together. And his family seemed lovely,
Yeah.
despite the fact that he was kind of like, oh, they're kind of controlling and particular and stuff like that. I'm like, they seem like lovely people.
Yeah.
So I was confused by that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's kind of it for episode 8. So quickly, we'll just go into episode 9 because there's not much here to talk about. Literally half a page. So, um, so we clearly have no content for this episode. When you see them getting their fucking marriage licenses, I don't care. I don't care. I don't need zero marriage license.
Yeah.
Stuff like gives a shit. And then we go dress shopping, tuck shopping. Cool. Moving on. I don't care because there was no drama there whatsoever. Yeah. So Izzy and Stacy, they go on like a plane. Like after this. So that's kind of cool. That was a cool idea. And then they also have dinner like in the hangar. So that's kind of cool too.
There's one thing that Izzy said where I was actually surprised, like the extent of Stacy's lifestyle is that she likes to go on private jets.
And that's how you know these two are never gonna work.
When he said private jets, I was like, not even first class. Private jets? Homegirl, where are you? What do you do?
What does her dad do?
Where are you going?
What does her dad do?
Yes.
Yeah.
What does her dad do? And where is she going in these private jets? Like, you can't just fly with the rest of us?
Right. We're not good enough for you.
Okay. Anyways, continue.
So then we see Milton and his sister are meeting up. And she says that people think that this is fake. Again, throwing out the fake with this, which is, again, interesting. And she just wants to know if they have had those conversations like they mentioned earlier. Again, I'm not going to go too much into it, but again, as mentioned, no. The answer is no, they haven't. So then we're with Izzy and Stacy. This is interesting. She's quiet as fuck, and we see them like packing because the day before the wedding, she's not saying anything. Even though he's like communicating with her, she's not really receptive. And this is where we find out that he just told her the man has no credit. And he does say, I've paid off my debt. I just don't have good credit.
Yeah.
But she's like, we've talked about finances. We've talked about these things. She said there was an instance where they went to a gas station and she said, do you have a credit card? And he told her no. And she asked him why, and he didn't tell her. So she's like, I feel like I was being lied to. And that's fair.
Yeah.
You need to be open with your finances. I'd rather just know the bad and everything. Just tell me. It's not if I leave you because of it, then I'm a shitty person. But
and like
I want to know.
Yeah, sorry, continue.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, for Izzy to say that, like, oh, there wasn't necessarily like all those times it was mentioned in passing, and he knew it was gonna be a long conversation, so he was kind of like waiting for a moment for them to like sit down and like actually dig through this rather than like at a gas station as they're driving, because he like knew the extent of the conversation. But I swear, in the very like first episode of them being back home, they were just one-on-one in Stacy's house,
and Stacy one-on and talking finances.
Yeah, like that's like the proof on camera. Like who knows what they're saying off of camera as well. So like for you to be like, oh, there wasn't really an opportunity. I'm like, okay, buddy, that was one opportunity.
You've had 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And you're just now telling her.
No, I think he just wanted to like be like, okay, now's the time. Tomorrow. And it just kept getting like pushed. And now tomorrow is the wedding. So you basically have to say it now, you know?
I found it. Okay, again, he wants to throw words out like sketchy about Johnny. This was sketchy. This was sketchy. Like, why didn't you tell her?
Yeah.
Because I think he felt like she's not going to accept me if I tell her this. So
Uh-huh.
then isn't that not like financial catfishing in a sense? In a
Mm-hmm.
sense, it is
Yeah.
because you're lying to me and know that I might not stay with you because of it. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of bullshit. But anyway, Milton and Lydia, they're on a date, a cool date for them. And kind of like there's rocks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where he kind of, again, we've talked about this a little bit, but this is where he says to her, like, you're too emotional in your reactions. I wish you'd be more like me. And and she says, but this is who I am. My emotions have brought me to the place that I am at today. I'm not sorry about it. Um, kind of take it or leave it kind of situation. And you kind of end off in this conversation thinking, you guys are not going to work. I mean, I always thought that. I never thought these two would work, but
Mm-hmm.
you can't change her because you're uncomfortable. If
Yeah.
you're uncomfortable, then don't be with her. You're, and I don't know. And she like at one point gets up and walks away, but then comes back and she's like, I'm not going to apologize for confronting him about things. He's lying about me. No, he isn't, but he's lying about me. And I'm going to confront him. He's telling me I'm a stalker. I'm going to confront him. And I mean, I do understand that, especially if like in a world where she is not a stalker. If someone's calling me a stalker, I'm going to confront it. I'm not going to just let him say those things about me because that there's a fine line between talking shit and defamatory.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to confront it. So I didn't agree with Milton in this. Um, and you just can't change her. But do you have any thoughts about their argument? I know we've talked about this kind of already anyway.
Yeah. Um, I think it was like, I mean, I think this is just where it was shown like their differences will not be resolved anytime soon. And it doesn't even seem like it's going to be resolved ever if this is a concern. And like one of the things that like really caught my attention was just like Milton being like, oh, like, I'm so like not necessarily afraid, but like he's like, he has to like think twice or think like three times before he could like tell Lydia something. And then that's not something he's used to. Because he has to like gauge her reaction or like he has to say it in a different way. And like that's him changing who he is. And I don't think he's down for that.
Mm.
And then Lydia, on the other hand, is like, I'm not going to change for anyone. This is what you're going to get. I'm not going to apologize for being emotional. And like, I understand that. It's just, it's just who you two are. And those things are not going to change. Like, it's just so deeply like rooted.
Ingrained in both of them.
Yeah.
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 And I don't even think they've resolved it. Like they kind of just
They
like,
didn't. Not at
yeah,
all. And I think, again, I think Milton comes from a family because he actually uses like, we're non emotional. So this is
hmm
something he has to learn over time. Remember, he comes from a military family. There's no emotion,
yeah,
and it's limited at least. Whereas Lydia, her mom is very emotional.
yeah,
You tell her brother is somewhat emotional as well. This is who she is. You can't change her, and it's not going to change overnight. And not to mention, why should she? She's just
hmm
going to learn to resent you over time because she can't be her authentic self. Like, it's not going to work.
yeah,
And anyway, that is the end of both these episodes, 8 and 9. Um, Now we're headed to the weddings. So my predictions again stand of no one's getting married because the only one that I had, well, we all know how that turned out. And so I think because we're kind of at the point of who's going to say yes, who's going to say no. I think Izzy's going to say yes, Stacey's going to say no,
hmm
and I think Milton is going to say yes. No, actually, no. I think Milton's going to say no, and Lydia's going to say yes.
yeah.
What do you think?
I think I'm at this stage, I'm at the same
Okay.
theory. Yeah.
Okay.
I think for a while I did think Izzy and Stacey were gonna get married, but now
You
like
did.
for sure. Yeah, I did. I did.
You
I
did.
thought they were gonna like chaotically work.
I know, but
Um, But no, yeah, I do think like, yeah, I do think Stacy is the one to say no.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens in
Yeah.
the 10th episode, and you'll be with me, of course, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm here until till the end now.
Yes. So if you like what you heard, please share Reality Tea times 2 with everyone in your life. That's going to help with our growth. And we really want to grow this podcast. Another way you can grow it is by also rating and reviewing us on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. The links to those podcasts, links to the Spotify and Apple Podcasts, will be in the show notes. You can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps, but if there is an app that you don't see us on, that you want to see us on, please let me know and I can get that up on that podcast app. If you are an avid YouTube user, you can listen to this podcast on YouTube by going to Reality Tea times 2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by connecting with us on either Facebook at Reality Tea times 2 or Instagram and Threads at Reality Tea times 2 podcast. You can also email us. We would love to hear from you. If you want to guest on the podcast at some point, whether we talk about your favorite show or just get to know each other, you can email us at realitytea times 2 at hotmail.com, and you can make that request and we can talk and we can figure that out. So you can email us at that email. We have a new website where you can get links to everything. You can get links to our Facebook page, Instagram page, Threads, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everything your heart's desire, as well as we do now have a Discord. So you can follow us and talk to us on the Discord app. You can get all of that information at the website, and the website is www.solo.to/reality times 2. I also have a new podcast with my friend Mikkel called Next Take Podcast, and you can either listen to us at YouTube at the link that's going to be in the show notes. I believe that is Next Take Podcast. And you can also go to our website. There you can have all the links to all of our social medias, email, everything. Our episodes as well will be at the website, which is www.solo.to/next take podcast. All of the information, everything that I have just said, will be in our show notes. Well, that's it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.